Hi, I'm Lisa Sullivan. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about myself. My background is actually as a physician assistant. I started out at Texas Tech University and I practiced as a PA for several years. I then went back to school to receive my doctorate in natural medicine. So really what I practice today is functional medicine. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. Just to share a little bit more about myself, I'm a mother and a wife. I have 3 children at home. It's a really exciting time for my husband and I. You know, we get to watch our kids grow, and really I guess what I find about being a mother is that it's really important for me to be healthy, because if I'm not healthy, then it doesn't just affect myself anymore. You know, now it affects my kids and my husband, and I think that that plays a big role in why I find that it's very important to invest into myself and my health. You know, I find that we work so hard our entire lives to retire, when the majority of the people that are retired, they end up just spending their time and their money on doctor's visits and on poor health. That's not something that I want for my future. You know, 7 out of 10 people end up in a nursing home before they die, and I just really don't think that that's okay. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that we have a health care crisis in our nation today? Or even a health crisis? You know, many people answer this question with yes, and it's really both. So one of the things that I find is, in order to prevent repeating history, I think it's important to figure out what caused those events to take place, and let's do something different to prevent that from continuing to happen. So when looking at the health crisis, you know, I really think that the main reason for our health crisis, and you probably agree, that our lifestyles are to blame. You know, many people have sedentary lifestyles, they're very high stress lifestyles, and then that sometimes leads to poor eating habits. You know, genetically modified foods, foods with pesticides, processed foods, fast foods, and really we are what we eat, and so putting those foods into our body causes inflammation that triggers a lot of these conditions. So when talking about the health care crisis, you know, this is more looking at the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies, the FDA, you know, how this all comes together. So let me just be upfront with you. I'm not here to bash your doctor. I really do believe that doctors want to help. You know, I think that they are kind of wrapped in this health crisis system with us, just in that they aren't able to really give the quality time and care that they want to provide, because they're stuck inside the FDA and what the insurance will allow and all of that. I mean, pharmaceutical companies sponsor the medical schools. So our doctors are taught what they want them to know, you know, how to prescribe these medications. So 70% of diseases prevalent today, meaning chronic degenerative diseases, you know, lifestyle dependent, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, hypothyroidism, acid reflux, you know, irritable bowel syndrome, high cholesterol, hypertension, the list just goes on. 70% of diseases are really lifestyle dependent, as I was saying, but what does somebody do when they are faced with one of these diseases? Think about it, where do they go? To their doctor, right? They use their insurance card, and their insurance card tells them which doctor they get to go to, and then what does that doctor usually do for them? Well, if we think about it, the doctor usually gives them a medication. And does that medication, I mean, ask yourself, does that medication actually fix the underlying cause, or does it mask the symptom? Most individuals would say it masks the symptom. And the reason that you know this is because you're not getting better. You know, in fact, many people have to be put on a second medication, or they have to have their dose increased. And so that right there tells us that the medication isn't actually fixing the problem. And many individuals, when they go to their doctor, they use their insurance card. So essentially what's that saying is the insurance is paying for us to go through these steps that ultimately puts us on a medication that really isn't fixing the problem. It's masking the symptom. So I'll be upfront in telling you that I really, when it comes to insurance, it's not that we don't accept insurance here, it's just that insurance doesn't cover things like this. The insurance is part of that system, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to help you. In fact, we help a lot of individuals. Many of our members are on a fixed income or retired, and for the most part, we are able to help everyone who walks through our door, regardless of the financial situation. I find that this is an investment into your health, and that in order to prevent poor health, that we do have to invest into ourselves. I'll share a story with you, and it's something that happened in my own life. My mother was actually diagnosed with colon cancer. She went through the traditional medicine approach, taking chemotherapy and radiation, surgeries. I really watched her suffer through that, and she ended up passing away. The chemotherapy, I don't know if you know, but the goal is to kill all of the bad cells before it kills the good. And in my mother's case, that didn't happen that way. And for many individuals, it doesn't happen that way. But what I think is so frustrating is never once did they look at her as an individual. They looked at her as a disease and said, this is what we do with this disease. But there's a reason that disease happened. And for many people, it should be more individualized because all of our bodies are different. And that's one of the things that we do that's very much different at Pure Wellness Center and Spa, is that we look at the body as an individual. So when I talk about functional medicine, it can often be interchanged with alternative medicine, holistic medicine, natural medicine, homeopathic medicine, just in that the goal is to apply natural things to get the body to function better. If you look at this wilting plant, what do you think? Many people think, well, it needs water. Give it some nutrients, give it, put it in the sun. So in short, we said, what is this plant missing that it needs? And then oftentimes the next step in looking at the body is, well, what's really interfering with the body? In the plant, it might be toxins. So we think, what is your body missing that it needs, or what's interfering with the body that is causing it to have this condition or this disease? This is very logical thinking, right? And so we are able to do certain tests that help us determine what's causing those problems, and do certain tests that look at, what nutrients is your body missing, or look at what's really triggering the inflammation inside the body. And then from there, we help you fix it. Sadly, it's not really that way in our healthcare system. The #1 used website is in fact WebMD. It has a symptom tracker on there. So somebody can go in there and type in their symptoms, and that's fine. Maybe they just wanted a label. But I think that the problem comes into play when somebody goes to click that next tab that says, well, what medication do I take? Right? Because now people are going to their doctors today more than ever before saying, well, I think I just need this drug. But there's a lot of drug ads out there, and you probably have heard some, and many of them have a long list of side effects, which is one of the things that we really want to avoid. And I was listening to one, it was on bladder incontinence. So it lists some of the side effects of bladder incontinence, and it's, diarrhea, or has been shown to cause sudden death. Who wants to be that statistic? But are these drug ads working? They are. Pharmaceutical companies are spending billions of dollars a year on these ads because they're working. But the sad part is that they're teaching us how to think. They're teaching us to think, well, if I take a medication, then I'll be able to fix this problem. But I'm here to tell you today that regardless of hypothyroidism, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, acid reflux, high blood pressure does not mean that you have to be on a medication for the rest of your life. In fact, the immune system in particular, autoimmune diseases, I get asked this question a lot, is autoimmune diseases reversible? Well, with autoimmune conditions, it's an imbalance in your immune system. So the best way that I like to explain it is when it comes to an autoimmune condition, it's kind of like a virus, okay? So if you have a virus, your immune system reacts, it produces certain cells that go after that virus and try to rid it from your body. So in an autoimmune condition, much of the same thing is happening where the immune system is producing certain cells, but now instead of targeting a virus, they're targeting a specific organ in your body. So like your thyroid, for example. If you have a thyroid condition, most of the time it's autoimmune related, then your immune system is producing certain cells and going after and targeting your thyroid. Well, the case with autoimmune diseases is that if somebody has one autoimmune disease, they have a 50% increased risk of developing another autoimmune disease. So here's some common autoimmune diseases, things like diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, endometriosis, osteoporosis, and the list really just goes on. So with thyroid, now Hashimoto's and Graves are both autoimmune diseases that affect the thyroid. So 90% of all thyroid cases are autoimmune related. Now, with the thyroid, we work a lot with people who have hypothyroidism. Whether that's because they once were hyperthyroid and then they had radiation, maybe they had part of their thyroid removed, maybe they had thyroid cancer. And so with hypothyroidism, that's where the thyroid isn't working as well as it's supposed to. Many people are placed on a medication called levothyroxine or Synthroid, and they never feel better. They deal with symptoms all the time. Well, what happens when somebody has a thyroid condition? I think it's important to understand that your thyroid really produces two main hormones. So it produces T4 and it produces T3. And you can see up here that it produces a lot more T4 than it does T3. But what happens is the body has to convert that T4 to T3. And then the T3 becomes activated. And this activation process takes place in the liver and the gut. And the T3 is really that active thyroid hormone, in that a good example would be the T4 is like oil and the T3 is like gasoline. Your cars need the gasoline to run, right? But the oil has to be converted to gasoline. So in the thyroid, the T4 has to be converted to T3 and then the T3 can work. But the problem is that many of these medications that people take, like Synthroid, levothyroxine, they're just a T4. So maybe the problem wasn't that the body didn't have enough T4, maybe it was that it was having trouble converting and activating it because of all the other inflammation going on inside the body. So that's one of the things that we can look at. We can look at, is it related to an autoimmune disease? There's a lot of symptoms that tell your body that it's not working properly, whether it's autoimmune related, thyroid related. Here are some of the common ones: gas and bloating. 70% of your immune system is located in your digestive system. If you're dealing with these symptoms or problems with bowel difficulty, whether it's diarrhea or constipation, these are signs that that area is not working like it's supposed to, and we need to fix it. We can't just be placed on a medication to cover it up. Tired, sluggish, just worn out at the end of the day. This indicates a major health problem, that poor energy. That indicates that the body's not working like it's supposed to. It could be related to a hormone imbalance, hair loss or hair thinning. This is often hormone imbalance related, or it could be related to a thyroid condition. This is a common thyroid complaint. Depression, those mood swings or nervous, emotional feeling. Here's the key point, is that 99% of your neurotransmitters are actually made in your gut. So if it's a gut problem and you know, now you're dealing with depression or anxiety, a lot of times if we fix the gut issue, you'll see improvements in those areas. And so it really does come down to not just being placed on medication to cover it up. Insomnia, you know, whether that's trouble with falling asleep or staying asleep. Maybe you wake up 2, 3 in the morning just wide awake. Again, indicates a major health problem, and we need to look at what that could be caused from. Weight loss or weight gain. Skin rashes, you know, the psoriasis type rash. Acid reflux is another common symptom. This muscle tenderness and spasms, joint stiffness and swelling. Again, these are inflammatory conditions. And one of the things that we do at Pure Wellness Center is, again, back to that wilting plant. Well, what is your body missing that it needs, or what's interfering with the body from functioning like it's supposed to? For many of these symptoms, your body creates symptoms letting you know that it's not working like it's supposed to. All too often, many individuals go to their doctor and they cover up these symptoms. You know, they take a medication to prevent the symptom from occurring, but then they take that medication day after day and it's just suppressing that, and so eventually a disease takes place. Now, in the gut, I think it's important to look at all the different areas that the digestive system works with. You know, so it's not just a digestion, elimination, metabolism. It's also things like the neurotransmitters. It's also things like, you know, your mood. It's things like your hormone imbalances. It's oftentimes your bone metabolism, your cholesterol levels, your blood sugar regulation. There's so many areas of the body that are not, you know, that are dependent on your digestive system working like it's supposed to. So that's always the first step in really correcting the body's dysfunction. You may have heard of leaky gut. So essentially what leaky gut is it's looking at inflammation. Now, when it comes to leaky gut, most often somebody will start to deal with like bloating symptoms, gas and inflammatory symptoms. This will then lead to a malabsorption. So maybe you go get your blood tested and it shows that you're low in magnesium, you're low in B12, and so, or iron, that's a common one. So in the traditional medicine, they'll just give you the supplement, right? Here, give your body more of this. It's not getting enough. But there's a reason that it's not getting enough. Okay, if you're not getting enough from your food sources, that's fine. But more often than not, it's where your body's actually not absorbing that like it's supposed to. So when it comes to that poor absorption, we need to figure out why. Because if this continues to take place, then eventually the immune system starts to kick in. So now we're developing different food sensitivities and allergies, if you will. Just in that when you go to consume a food, maybe you've never had a problem with it, but now you're getting that acid reflux, or now you're getting that bloating and gas, and it's really affecting your overall body. And then eventually it turns into an autoimmune disease. This inflammation goes on for so long, meal after meal, that your body starts to target another area. So leaky gut is often a trigger in an autoimmune disease. What's the cause of leaky gut? Well, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the health crisis, in that it's problems with processed foods, genetically modified foods, medications, stressors, lifestyle, really. But that's good news, because that means that if we change our lifestyle, then we can reverse many of these conditions. So one of the things that we do is we have access to all different kinds of testing at my office. So when it comes to testing, this is really key in figuring out what the cause is. Are your symptoms because of a toxicity, a gastrointestinal problem, an autoimmune disease, a thyroid condition, a gastrointestinal problem, adrenal imbalance. There's a lot of causes. So some of the tests that we do is blood testing. Again, looking at nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, food sensitivities. And then some of the testing is saliva or stool testing, looking at gastrointestinal. Saliva is really good for looking at hormone imbalances. Some of our hormones are related to our weight, our sleep cycles, our stress levels, our energy levels. And the best way to test those hormones is over a 24-hour period, which is very well done with saliva because you can take it 4 different times over a 24-hour period without having to be poked. So just seeing that, how that all plays out, day after day can be important in helping you figure out what's causing your problem. Maybe you've had your labs tested and your doctor said, well, everything looks normal. But here's the factor. Most of these lab value ranges are put together by the FDA. And so the FDA says that they have to be within a normal range. Well, that would really mean that 90% of individuals in America are healthy right now because they're based on bell curves. So what we do in functional medicine is we take a more optimal lab range. So it is a little bit more of a narrowed range. And I'll give you an example. Maybe you've had your TSH tested. Well, on the lab value range, it says that it should be between 0.3 and 5.7. Now that's a really big range. So one of the things that we do is bring that range in saying that it really should be closer to 1.8 to 3.0, and that would be a more optimal lab range. Another reason why I see many individuals who have had normal lab tests is because in traditional medicine, they're really limited to the lab tests that insurance will cover, which means that many individuals only have those regular, routine, physical labs done that really isn't helping us figure out what's causing the problem. So it is very much important to have the proper testing, and that's one of the things that we have access to at Para Wellness Center. So really our goal for most individuals is to have them figure out exactly what's causing their problem by having the proper test, take them through certain steps to help them fix it, which I'm going to go through in just a minute here. But ultimately, the goal of having somebody come through our programs is to help educate them, to teach them how to really be able to maintain these results once we've helped them get there. I would say most individuals see improvements, and pretty significant improvements, within their first month with us. And then it's just a matter of building on that. So we really do programs which are pretty comprehensive in that everything's included to help you get the results that you're looking for and to teach you this as a lifestyle so you can continue to get those results. Now, many individuals are, they go in, they get a medication, they get a test, or they go in, they get a supplement, and they get a test. Whereas we like to really look at the whole picture and make sure that we help you not only fix the problem short term, but long term as well. Sadly, it's not really that way in our healthcare system. In fact, the World Health Organization states that 90% of all diseases prevalent today are not treatable with orthodox medical procedures, which really means that most of our diseases that are treated in traditional medicine aren't being fixed. And I think a lot of it does come down to insurance because the insurance companies, they don't pay for things that work, that actually fix the problem. In fact, this was right off of Medicare's website. It states a treatment plan that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life, or therapy that is performed to maintain or prevent deterioration of a chronic condition is not considered to be medically necessary, and therefore we don't pay for it. So we're only hurting ourselves by keeping our treatment plans within what insurance will cover, because they're saying right here that they don't cover things that actually work. I have a lot of individuals who ask me, well, why doesn't insurance pay for this? And it's not that we don't accept insurance, it's just that maybe a different way of looking at it could be something like, well, if they paid for it, you got healthier, you got off your medications, you don't need to see so many doctors, go to the hospital, do they make more or less money? Well, they make less money, so, why would they do that? It's more beneficial for them to keep people sick. Now, I will tell you too that I'll work with your doctor as much as you want me to, and we'll titrate you down on the medications just as you were titrated on them. And we'll wait to see those improvements before we start changing any medications. I don't just take you off your medications. We do take things like flexible spending or health credits or healthcare savings, those types of plans. I'm going to share a story with you.
This is Linda. She has been with Curo for about 3.5 months. How has your program been going, Linda?
It's been going well. It's been a challenge at times, but overall it's been going well.
I know, what changes have you noticed in your energy levels, your pain levels, since you've started the program?
Energy level, I don't feel the need to lay down and sleep in the middle of the day anymore. I have a lot of energy that way. Pain level, as I told Dr. Sullivan, I did not know that you could actually live pain-free at my age. I had pains in my back that I always thought was arthritis. It's not there anymore. I had pain in my knee that I thought was from injuries. That's not there anymore. I'm totally pain-free.
That's amazing. And have you gotten off any medications that you were on, or lower doses?
I'm lowered. So far, I'm working towards getting off blood pressure medicines. I've had thyroid medicine dropped and lowered, and I've had blood pressure that I'm about to eliminate one pill completely.
Yay!
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, how are you sleeping? Are you sleeping better?
It's amazing. My husband and I have switched. I am asleep 5 minutes after I hit my head. And as I said to Dr. Sullivan last night, I slept for 8 hours. For 30 years, I've been a 5-hour night sleep.
I remember we talked about that in one of the classes.
It's slowly gone up to 8 hours in the last couple nights. It's wonderful. You feel so much better. You have so much energy. I never knew how great things could be.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Love it.
Well, we're so happy to have you as a part of our Curo family, and thank you for giving us your testimony.
Thank you.
So that was Linda, and you can see all of the improvements that she was able to receive in going through a program with us. She's actually come a long way in just a short period of time. So really the steps that we take in our program is first figuring out what's causing somebody's health problem, as I've been talking about, having the proper test. So having the proper test will help us determine what's causing the problem, and then our first step will be focusing on actually fixing that problem. And what I like to say is actually correcting the dysfunction rather than altering the lab value. So all too often medications can alter lab values, but we like to see those lab values in a normal range, not dependent on a medication. We take a very step-by-step approach, so it's not overwhelming. We address the body as a whole and look at the whole picture. Rather than having somebody on 4 different medications for 4 different health problems, we want to look at how all of those problems are connected and focus on fixing the causes, because most of the time the causes are the same. We provide you with mentoring, with education, so that you're learning and understanding. And it is very much individualized, where many people, you can read a book. You can read a lot of good information in books, but they're not individualized. One book is going to say, eat eggs, they're good for you. They're high in protein. The next one's going to say, don't eat eggs. They're bad for you. They're high in cholesterol. It's like, well, which one is actually true for me? Both of those statements are true. So, and that's really the steps that we take. Now, there's 5 key components to our programs. So we take most individuals through this structure. And then from there, it's individualized. So we start with a detox. Now, it's not scary, it's not hard, it's not a fast. You're still eating. It's not going to have you like running to the bathroom or anything. It's not some colon cleanse over the counter, okay? So this was put together by myself and a few of my colleagues who have different educational backgrounds in functional medicine. And what we've done is we've used certain supplements, homeopathics, a few other products to facilitate that cleansing throughout the liver, the digestive system, the kidneys, the immune system, which are our body's own detox organs, so that these are functioning more optimally. And then from there, you're reducing that inflammation, those inflammatory triggers in your body. Now, so that kind of gets your body to start healing, right? And then the next step would be the nutrition. I have a nutritionist on staff. She's a registered dietitian, but she also has a degree in functional nutrition, which is very important because in traditional medicine, if you see a nutritionist or a dietitian, they still follow that SAD diet, that standard American diet that got a lot of individuals into the health conditions and crises that they're dealing with now. So again, we take a more individualized approach. We figure out what's triggering the inflammation, and then teach you how to get the nutrients that your body needs that it's missing. So this is a very much individualized process. The next step is exercise. We have a personal trainer on staff, and he really teaches our members how to get the exercises that they need that's going to help balance their hormones and build muscle mass. So this can be done in 20, 30 minutes, a few days a week. It's not some long drawn out program. The next step is hormones. Now, we don't do anything with hormone replacement therapy, but what we do look at is the hormones and how your body is, how your hormones are affecting other areas in your body. So, for example, when it comes to like adrenals, the adrenals are very much associated with how the thyroid functions. If the adrenals aren't working properly, then it's going to affect the thyroid. So we try to balance this, and we have that saliva testing that I talked about earlier to help figure out the cause, and then we can take you through different steps to correct this. And the last step is the nervous system, which is just really reducing inflammation and supporting cognitive function for long-term health. So we take all of these components, we put them together into a very step-by-step approach with mentoring, with that education, and then of course with the proper testing. So it's very much different than if you just go see a naturopath, or if you just go, see somebody in this more natural field, because we have a full program. And I find that that's why we are so successful. I think that a lot of it does have to do with having all of these steps in the right order at the right time with that education. So if you can, ask yourself a couple questions. What really led you to watching this video today? And ask yourself, how would life be if I were able to resolve my health concerns? How has my life been affected? My relationships, my ability to work, my ability to enjoy life. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated am I really to fix the problem? It's kind of a big one, right? Because all too often I see people who are kind of pushing it off, putting their health on the back burner, not making it a priority to fix it or to invest into it. And this is really what leads people down the path that they get on. So, the best step is to start with the symptoms. As soon as you start to have symptoms, let's get in here, let's prevent this, and let's take this step right now. I help people who are very healthy take that preventative approach. I also help people who are very sick. I've seen people who are on 15 medications. You wouldn't believe the conditions that they've been through. And I work with them and their doctors to fix these problems, and of course anybody in between. So anybody could really benefit from going through a program with us. The programs are individualized. So once you come in and meet with me, I'll find a program that's going to fit your needs based on what your goals are and kind of where you come from. We can work with almost any budget. I say that we make our programs all-inclusive, so everything that you need is bundled, and then from there we can budget with you. I also make sure that we don't make it too hard, that this is something that you can achieve. So I'd like to share one more story with you, and then we'll close.
I came to Girl because I was feeling feeling badly. I had gained a lot of weight. My thyroid was imbalanced. I was literally bedridden with fibromyalgia and migraine headaches, in pain constantly. Really didn't have a life. And I heard about Dr. Sullivan, and since I've come to Dr. Sullivan and met all these wonderful people here, I have a new life. I was bedridden, and now I am out and I'm about and I'm exercising. I have no more fibromyalgia, very few migraine headaches, and I am 40-some pounds lighter, and just have a whole new life because of Pearl.
It sounds like a complete 180 with what you've seen through working with Puro, and that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing.
I just thank Pearl for giving me a new life.
So that was Eileen, and you can see that she has come a long way as well. She started with fibromyalgia, hypothyroidism, and she's doing much better today. So what I'd like to invite you back to is to come back to Puro Wellness Center. We also have a spa, and really what we'll do is we'll sit down and talk. I'll do a complete wellness evaluation. So for this wellness evaluation, I ask that you bring any testing that you've had done in the past year. I ask that you complete a full new patient packet, which is found on our website under forms, or we can also mail you a copy. I also ask that you put together a time that works for not just you, but also your significant other or your spouse. Because I find that most individuals, this is very much a lifestyle. And so what we like to do is, this is really for your benefit. I want to make sure that when you and I sit down and talk, we can help you move forward with a program at that time. And I find that husbands and wives, significant others, they tend to make these decisions together. So who's ever involved in helping you make these decisions, I would very much prefer that you bring them with you so that we can go over this with them. And then you can move forward with a program that's individualized to you. So, you may have went to your doctor in the past year or so, and they take a little bit of a different route in that you go in there and the nurse brings you back, and the doctor comes and sits down with you, and you usually leave with a prescription. You're charged for that visit. Most of the time people think they're copay, but you do have a step where we are able to just kind of fix that so that you're not leaving with a prescription. You're not faced with this copay, which is, your doctor still bills $250, $350, $400 sometimes. Just pay a little bit different than you thought. And the number one reason for senior citizen bankruptcy is medical debt. So I think that it's very important to reverse this and to fix this. So what I'll do is I'll set aside an hour of my time to spend with you. For this initial evaluation, it's usually $250. However, I like to give you a little bit of a discount for coming and listening to this presentation, because it gives you a better understanding about what we do, so you can make sure that it is a good fit for you. And so because you watched this, I am only going to be charging $50. So when you call to make the appointment with me, please mention that you watched the webinar, and they will make sure that your consult is only $50. I do have some limited consult times available, and so with that, once you get into the program, we have a lot of flexibility, making sure that we're accommodating a full-time working schedule. But initially, if you can work with me on that initial evaluation, then we'll be able to work with you in the evenings, weekends, or whatever time is going to meet your schedule. So please give the office a call. You can reach us at 734-716-5588. Again, we do have a spa as well. We're located right on Belleville Lake, so it's a great spot. And you can get your chemical-free facials and massages as well. One thing that I like to say to motivate people is Einstein said this: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So thank you for listening to this, and I look forward to meeting you. Oh, and please stick around to listen to the remaining testimonials. We also have a lot on our website.
I've been a diabetic for 15 years. My concern is my weight and getting off my insulin.
My health was scared me to death. Yeah, my feet started acting up, and I thought, oh my goodness, my body doing things. Neuropathy things, and doctors weren't giving me good answers. I knew I was eating improperly, but every time I would try to make changes, I wasn't getting any response to losing weight.
I have a serious problem with my knees, inflammation, and I have arthritis. And my doctors actually said, Teresa, you need to have double knee replacement surgery, which shocked me. And also I was dealing with being overweight.
When I came to Pearl in September, I had been very ill for several months and was bedridden most of the time with pain, fibromyalgia, migraine headaches, neuralgia in my face, many things wrong that kept me homebound, kept me from doing tasks, kept me from doing things I like to do.
The biggest was frustration over not being able to lose weight. So I felt like I had tried all the different approaches and it hadn't really helped. I'd also had an injury to my knee, so that was making it hard to walk. I just felt like, I was on blood pressure medication and thyroid medication and just having like swelling in my legs. And I felt like I was getting older than I was.
One of the main reasons I did this with Puro is to take my health to the next level. I felt that I was stagnant.
I was suffering from migraine headaches on a regular basis. I was having trouble losing weight. I felt nauseous most of the time and just didn't feel good when I did eat, even though I was kind of even starving myself to lose weight. It didn't do any good. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't fall asleep. I couldn't stay asleep. It's like everything that she would say that was me. When you go to a doctor, you got high blood pressure. What did they do? Well, they tell you to take another pill or take a higher amount of the pill. Every time I went, I was getting more and more pills, and my bills were getting more and more.
And I had been on medication for diabetes and tried to watch diet and things.
Well, when you came to us, you had hemoglobin A1C of 9.6 or 9.8.
And it had been higher than that. It had been, I think I even went over 11 at one point.
Because the doctor was going to put me on oral agents for diabetes and considering I'm taking insulin.
Well, I remember you saying that the traditional medical doctors couldn't really do much for you. No, at that time.
I couldn't go to church. I had to quit teaching Bible studies. I couldn't have lunch with friends anymore. My life was home.
I mean, I've been on medication for that for many a year, but it just felt like the dose just kept going.
And when you started, your blood sugars were pretty elevated. You're on insulin, right? Initially, but were you on any medications before that you no longer need?
Well, I had a shopping bag of supplements. I started with 44 units in the morning and 42 units at night, and now I'm 9 units in the morning and 9 units at night. I've lost 47 pounds. Since I started, since I've been off more of my insulin, but anybody would recommend Puro. I mean, it's a healthy way of life.
One for diabetes, one for cholesterol, one for blood pressure, and a stomach medication.
For acid reflux.
For acid reflux, yeah.
So, and you're off of all of them?
Yeah, I'm off of all of them.
And we've also seen really good improvements in your blood levels too.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, it was 245 pounds. Right now, I'm at 214.
yeah, you
I
look great.
made my goal. My A1C, I was 6.4, so I'm now down to 5.9. So my sugar is tremendously improved. I'm having less lightheadedness and feeling sick from having high blood sugar.
I saw results directly from the toxic. My body was so toxic from chemicals and things that were in my body that shouldn't have been. And once I was eliminating the toxins and following the diet programs, I felt good right away. And if I should do it, anybody can go through it.
Rush back into having mushroom cleanses and doing gardening and, you know, just, relieve the burdens on me. Plus, I benefited from the program because I lost 20 plus pounds.
My skin looks a lot better. I feel better. By the time I get, it was feeling like by the time I got home at the end of the day, I just wanted to collapse someplace. And now I get home and I have energy to, get there and go for a walk with the dog.
Excellent. What was your A1C at the very beginning?
Well, when I first started, it was close to 12. Okay, and then shortly after that, probably a month and a half after that, I knocked off 4 points. Got it to around 8. Another thing is my cholesterol levels, although they were good levels, they even got better.
Because I don't have the headaches. I go to sleep, I sleep all through the night. I don't even get up to go to the bathroom anymore. I used to get up 2 or 3 times. And I lost weight. And I had gone to one of Dr. Sullivan